What would you do if the person you trusted most betrayed you for a quick profit? Eleanor Grayson, at 78, thought she knew her daughter-in-law, Margaret, a woman she'd treated as her own for decades. But the sting of betrayal cut deeper than any knife when Eleanor found herself shuffled into a nursing home, her beloved home of 50 years put up for sale without her consent. This is the story of a woman who refused to be discarded, who held a secret worth millions, and who taught those who underestimated her a lesson they'd never forget. Eleanor's life had been woven into the walls of her Victorian home in Willow Creek. Every creak of the floorboards, every rose in her garden, held memories of her late husband, Thomas, and their son, Daniel. After Daniel's sudden death 5 years ago, Margaret became her closest confidant, so Eleanor thought. Margaret's visits grew frequent, her smiles warm, but her eyes always lingered on the house. "It's too big for you now, Eleanor," she'd say, her voice dripping with false concern. "You need care, safety." Eleanor, trusting and frail, believed her. One crisp autumn morning, Margaret arrived with a van and a nurse. "It's for your own good," she said, ushering Eleanor into the vehicle. By evening, Eleanor was in a sterile room at Sunset Pines nursing home, her protests ignored. Days later, a for sale sign appeared in her front yard. Margaret had convinced the court Eleanor was unfit to manage her affairs, claiming dementia. The betrayal burned, but Eleanor's mind was sharp as ever. She hadn't told Margaret or anyone about the deed. Decades ago, Thomas had stumbled upon a small, forgotten plot of land in Willow Creek, tucked behind their property. He'd purchased it quietly, sensing its potential. When developers began eyeing the area for a luxury resort, that plot's value soared to $4 million. Thomas, ever cautious, hid the deed in a locked box beneath the attic floorboards, known only to Eleanor. It was their secret, their legacy. Margaret, greedy for the house's modest value, had no idea. In the nursing home, Eleanor's days were gray, but her resolve grew. She befriended Clara, a sprightly 85-year-old resident with a penchant for mischief and a knack for eavesdropping. Clara, a former private investigator, became Eleanor's unexpected ally. One night, over lukewarm tea, Clara revealed she'd overheard Margaret on a phone call, bragging about selling Eleanor's house to fund a lavish vacation. The twist? Clara had to contact a retired lawyer named Henry who visited weekly. Henry, moved by Eleanor's story, agreed to help. Eleanor's plan was simple but daring. She needed to retrieve the deed before the house sale closed. Clara, with her sly charm, distracted the nursing home staff, while Henry drove Eleanor back to Willow Creek under the cover of night. Heart pounding, Eleanor crept into her attic, her fingers trembling as she pried up the floorboard. The box was still there, the deed pristine. She clutched it, tears streaming down her face, not of sorrow, but of triumph. Back at Sunset Pines, Henry worked his legal magic. He filed an emergency motion, revealing the deed and proving Eleanor's mental clarity. The court halted the house sale, and Margaret's scheme unraveled. Confronted, Margaret feigned innocence, but the evidence was undeniable. The $4 million plot was Eleanor's trump card, and she played it masterfully. She sold the land to a conservation group, ensuring it would remain untouched, a final gift to the community she loved. Eleanor returned to her home, her garden blooming brighter than ever. Margaret faded from her life, shamed and empty-handed. Clara, now a dear friend, visited often, their laughter filling the house. Eleanor's story wasn't just about reclaiming what was hers. It was about resilience, the power of secrets kept, and the strength to stand tall when the world tries to push you down. She'd been underestimated, but she'd won not just her home, but her dignity. In the quiet of her garden, Eleanor planted a new rosebush, whispering to Thomas's memory, "We did it." Her legacy wasn't the millions, but the courage to fight for what mattered. And in Willow Creek, her story became a legenda reminder that even in life's twilight, you can shine brighter than ever. Yindi.